Welcome, everyone. This is a meeting of the Board of Selectmen. It is May 7th, 2024. It is 1:15 p.m. Is there a motion to call the meeting to order?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is being audio and video recorded. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first order of business we have is Police Chief Richmond to discuss the sergeant's exam.
Yes, good afternoon. Very briefly, being a civil service department, and I'm requesting that the board authorize we participate in the statewide exam this fall. A couple of precursors to that is no, it does not cost any money to the town. No, there's no obligation to promote. And no, we do not currently have any openings. But the civil service promotional exam is only given once a year in the fall. Once that exam is given in the third weekend in September, takes a couple months for the list to be established. Once the list is established, which would say January 1st of 2025, that list is good for 2 years. So if it would be practical, I believe, and prudent to have an active list, like I said, there's no obligation. I'd like to move forward now to give the officers enough time to study. There's a reading list and there's prep classes and whatnot they can participate in. So it's practical, I think, to have that have an existing list. We haven't had one in a few years.
Good. Very good. Gentlemen, any questions?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Enjoy your
Have
day.
a good day.
Have a good one.
All right, the next order of business is to postpone the annual town meeting to June 17, 2024. Gentlemen, as you know, we have a significant deficit in the town that Mr. Kelly's working on with the accounting office, myself as much as I can, to try to look at the deficit and figure out where we can make cuts. We've been doing our best, but we still have a significant way to go. So I told Mr. Kelly to speak with the board, and we wanted to make it official on an open meeting in the Board of Selectmen to push out town meeting by 2 weeks to give the town a little bit more time to figure out the deficit, give the school time to vote their budget through, and then we can actually have hard numbers on where we need to be. So is there a motion to postpone the annual town meeting to June 17, 2024 at 7 p.m.?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly, I know that we just leave this on there, the MOA from Mattapoisett. I don't know if we don't have anything in our book, if we have anything back from Mattapoisett on that discussion.
I'm meeting with the town administrator in Mattapoisett tomorrow morning. He's been informed of our proposed budget and our limits, and we are meeting, and he says he's going forward then with a advertisement, and at that point I'll bring the proposed advertisement to the board to show you. You can sign the agreement with Mattapoisett and we go forward.
Okay, very good. The next, Mr. Kelly's put in a draft from Serped. It's an agreement. I believe this is would be funded through a grant. It's in the amount of $140,000. Mr. Kelly, you want to just brief the board on the development of this?
The chairman of the planning board and myself have met with Serped on multiple occasions. This is to update the master plan. There's going to be an addendum to this to include the clean water management earmark. So it would be a total of $140,000 for the update of the master plan. Included in the master plan would be clean water management, and there'd also be an update to that report for an additional $75,000. There's no cost to the town. It's to make sure that we have everything in place with Serpent. We're going to need to move very quickly because the funding will be returned to the state on June 30th if we do not move quickly. I'm going to be coming to the board at the next meeting on behalf of the planning board. The planning board is requesting that a master plan committee be appointed of 2 members from the planning board, 1 member from the Board of Selectmen, 1 member from Concom or Board of Health, 1 member from CPC, and 2 at-large members. According to Serpent, that's a typical size of that type of committee. It would be working under the supervision of the planning board to produce this new master plan update, and included in it, we have to recommend to the citizenry and the Board of Selectmen and the other appropriate boards all of the issues that will be addressed. There'll be multiple briefings through this process to the board, and there is no requirement that we go through 30B because it's one government entity contracting with another government entity.
And just quickly gone through some of this stuff and some of the timelines and some of the amount of workshops conflict each other throughout the paperwork.
This will all be upgraded. This was a draft.
Yeah, I see it says draft, and then the biggest part I think is important is the schedule that's in the back. There's a whole graph schedule in the back. It puts the majority of this work is through budgeting season, so I don't want to take any of your time, Mr. Kelly, away from dealing with too much of this stuff, deep dives into certain things that are on here, but the majority of this scheduling affects the month of January 25, February 25, March, April, May, and June of 25. That's our budgeting season. We've had difficulties this
Actually, I'm
year.
looking to step out of the process.
Okay.
Typically, the town planner is the person that's involved in the process. Also, it is typical that the town planner and the planning board contract with Serpent, but we don't have a town planner, so I want to know from the board, so we can, representing the town of Acushnet, we can have the proper authority, whether you want me to do it, whether you want the chair of this board to do it, or the chair of the planning board to do
I
it.
think, in my honest opinion, and I don't know where he stands, I know that he wants to retire, but he's willing to put some time in, Mr. Paul Sullivan from the planning board, that's been the,
It has to be either the town administrator, the planner, or the 2 chairs, Serpent said.
well, Simon says, just too bad, because Paul's a really sharp guy, and he really has a good handle on that office.
Well, this is just
To
to
like be
sign
the administrator, in other words, to coordinate with Serpent,
Yeah,
that's
but this
somebody
is-
part-time, somebody working.
This
Just-
is to sign the contract, not to
Oh.
work.
Oh, I was talking about like the working arm of
No.
the master plan, because he's got a really good handle on the
Oh,
former
okay.
master plan. He's got a great handle on the office. He's
No, this is
And
just to sign the contract.
he's super detailed, so whatever, I mean, it doesn't matter, the town administrator signs it, once we approve it, obviously, the real deal, this is a draft, right?
Well, it has to be done soon, so that's why and Serpent's coming in on the 14th to brief you on a number of matters. So we can put the right name here.
Serpent's coming in on the 14th, Mr. Kelly, depending on where we're at with our budgets.
They have to come in or we lose a lot of funding.
Well, I don't wanna lose any funding, I'm just saying, budgets are more important than something like this that's been hanging out, but this is important, I get it. We can figure something out, maybe the board does a different meeting to have Serpent in, right? It's an option. Just don't wanna get too caught up in getting off, we have massive budget concerns, right? That's the priority of the town right now, so we can figure out, Serpent might be a different meeting, right?
So who do you want Serpent to put on the signatory?
If the planning board chairman's comfortable doing it, let the planning board chairman do it.
Good.
It's under the planning board, and then I would, obviously, Mr. Hinckley will be the chairman of the Board of Selectmen shortly, so he would be the designee to work on behalf of the town, if that's okay with you,
Yeah, for sure. Works for me.
Well, the committee you have to set up after the contract's signed.
Yep, I mean, we'll figure out the committee once we get down there, right? But that's fine. Be nice to have them in, Serpent in, to discuss it, right? And have some input from the board earlier on how this went. And I noticed all the towns that they did work for. And I know that they just got done with one in Mattapoisett a couple of years back, and they did a really good job with the online portal of resident input, right? It's just not left up to 6 or 7 people to dictate what's gonna happen in the town of Acushnet, so.
The public meetings, there's all sorts of portal, they set up websites. It's a really good process.
Yeah, I heard great things about Mattapoisett, so, and I see they did Mattapoisett, so hopefully we'll be able to duplicate that process here, right? Right, so you don't need a motion today.
All I need is, I'll tell them that it's the signatories, Mark Francois.
As long as, can you talk to Mark first and make sure he's comfortable?
Oh, we met this morning.
Okay, that's fine, as long as you clear it with people. All right. Fiscal year 25 budget review of matters presented. Water, sewer, and golf enterprise. So I'll just bang out quick. Water, these are enterprise funds, it's not from taxation for the folks at home. The water enterprise, no significant changes, mostly due to the New Bedford water bills in the amount of $2,064,110. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Then we have the sewer enterprise fund, again, not from taxation, from user fees. Again, same effect, most of the increases are due to sewer pumping to the city of New Bedford, and this year's total is $1,121,445. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And next, we have Mr. Steve Tibbles, the golf superintendent, and Dana Pawlowski, the golf director. So whoever wants to come up and have a discussion on the budget. Dana, welcome. Mr. Tibbles, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Do you gentlemen have any questions that I mean, we did this process with the golf committee and went through FinCom, so I understand that there might be some questions that exist with regards to the budget submitted.
Yeah, so there's been, I don't know if I have the one that was submitted from golf and was looked at by FinCom, but I do have one here, and I know there was a question from you, Dana. So jumping right down into clerical.
Yes,
There's an additional $22,932 for 35 hours.
correct. I didn't present that. I haven't presented anything like that to the golf committee as of yet.
And that was not submitted to the finance
And
committee
it wasn't
either.
approved by the finance committee as well. Before that would even, before even suggesting submitting it to you for approval, I would like to go through the proper channels.
Can I
Rather than-
interrupt?
Sure.
This budget is not the finance committee's budget or the golf committee's budget. The budget is totally within the authority and purview of the Board of Selectmen. It's the
Nobody
Board
said
of
it wasn't.
Selectmen's
No, I've never,
budget.
this is a channel, a process we've never
No,
taken place.
they're advisory. They're on this. They're not.
I'm not challenging
Yes,
you.
but
I'm
nobody
stating
said-
we've never
nobody
done
said
this
it
process
wasn't.
before.
All I'm saying is this, the
we'll
first
get-
time.
we'll-
Slow down.
Hold on. we're gonna get through this one at a time.
Yeah.
Okay? If you wanna speak, all you gotta do is put your hand up, and I'll address you immediately once the other person's done speaking. The town administrator has spoken, are you done, Mr.?
All the other budgets that were submitted have been reviewed by the various entities, but they come to this board, and this board has redrafted a number of them.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't have a problem. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. So if I say, yes, let's do this, and then I offend somebody else saying, hey, we didn't authorize this, I'm just trying to get everybody
Well, we'll get,
together.
we're gonna get through this, right? So there's an amount
Mhm.
allocated into a line item
Correct.
that's in question right now. So
Correct.
I think, we're gonna get answers, and hopefully we'll get answers quick, right?
Mhm.
To figure it out, and then I think does golf have a meeting scheduled Thursday?
Thursday, yep.
Okay, there you go. You might want to tell them, because their meetings are later on at night, you want to make sure there's a budget discussion on their agenda,
Yes.
okay? You make sure it's done with the town clerk and posted on time, Dana,
Yep.
okay? So, and get that, as soon as you leave here, you should
ASAP.
just make sure it gets added to the agenda. I don't know who's responsible for posting your agendas for golf committee, but you might want to make that phone call, whether it's the chairman, Mr. Flynn,
Mhm.
and just say, hey, you know, if it's not already there, check the agenda, and say, there's no discussion about budgets, our budget's been changed, I think it's important that we discuss it because they need to wrap this up soon, right?
Understood.
And I don't have time to wait for their next meeting,
Mhm.
okay? So, Mr. Kelly, I think when you added this in there, that was some prior discussion over the last several months, maybe a year, whatever it is, with golf
More than a
committee.
year.
For golf committee, with somebody working the desk.
It's for
Is that what this is?
cashier clerical position.
Okay, so,
And it's for not full year, but full-time when the course is open.
okay. So there you have it.
Mhm.
That's
So,
what,
With one question with regarding that, if I could.
sure.
I calced that out, and it looks like that's priced out at minimum wage. And I think Ed Isaac had approached one of my guys that currently does it, who's leaving the operation and moving to Florida midsummer. And he was stating, you know, how's that going? Do you enjoy it? He goes, yeah, but tell you what, a job like that deserves to be paid between $22 and $26 an hour and not minimum wage. So just food for thought, no overstepping anything outside of
It would be an AFSCME position.
Mm-mm.
That is.
Yeah, it would be.
It's clerical.
My only comment on this was that no one is assuming that no one or someone has authority over the Board of Selectmen, and that the Board of Selectmen can't add, change, or manipulate the budget the way they feel appropriate. Alls I was saying is that the first time I saw this was when I received an email 2 weeks ago. I'm not challenging it, I'm not discussing it. To be quite honest with you, the way Mr. Kelly described it doesn't have much to do with me because I don't handle money. I was just simply trying to say that this hadn't been in the budget prior to seeing it 2 weeks ago.
Correct.
That's all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Ingley.
wasn't this already voted on by the golf committee?
Well, the budget itself was,
Not
but
the
as I
budget, the
said,
positions.
the position, if it had been voted by the committee, I was not aware of it because it didn't occur at the last meeting in April.
Yeah, I'm going back like a year ago. I remember Mr. Isaac talking about adding a clerical
Well,
position.
he spoke about it, but I don't
Spoke
think
about it.
it had never been inserted into the budget.
Okay.
And the discussions were, what is the staffing? And prior to COVID, I had 2 Acushnet residents that were staffed as pro shop clerks. Since during COVID, nobody was there because there was minimal staffing. Coming out of COVID, I've hired Leah and Riley, and then I transitioned Dennis, who's a starter ranger who's been with us for 19 years, into the pro shop. I mean, he's a grown man who's retired. I feel very comfortable with him on the job, but he is stepping away mid-June. So we've been operating with that staffing, so I'm not sure, I can't really confirm or recall if they made an actual official motion and voted it through.
So I think the story around that position, Dana, and to give you guys, and Steve, to give you guys an idea of the conversation. It was from committee members, if I recall it correctly. It was about getting you away from the clerical desks, right? Just being basically a cashier at your hourly rate and getting you to do more of what you're better at, right? Instead of taking up your time sitting behind a desk going $15, $2, getting you to do more and being more involved with the operations itself, you know, setting up, making sure food is available, the kitchen, whatever it may be, making sure everything's functioning the way it's supposed to be, and being more of that. I mean, you got a director title, right? And I think that was around as more of the manager style.
Sure.
Making sure things are getting done, make sure everybody's actually doing their job, right? That was, if I remember that, Mr. Kelly, that was kind of the conversation around it, right? Is you're an expensive cashier,
Right.
if I remember certain people's words, right? And I get that. So
some
I think
extent.
I think the conversation for you, because you're currently doing, you know, wearing those hats.
Sure.
Is I think the conversation needs to be had with the golf committee, and then it comes back to the Board of Selectmen for final approval, is what is that gonna take to get someone to put there for whatever X amount is, I just did 35 hours a week, $20 an hour for 8 months, and that budget line item covers that. So you must have been somewhere around that $20 an hour.
Well, it says 35 hours a week.
That's what I did, 35 hours a week by 8 months.
Oh, all right. Well, I was going based on 40, we're open for 40 weeks. So that's why my number came out.
Yeah, I used 32.
Gotcha.
So whatever it comes out to, it's
Yep.
short money, right? So
Yep,
it's
yep.
another $4,000
Sure.
bucks or whatever. That's for the committee, should be, right? So that's something that we're taking, I think the town administrator's taking the initiative to put that in the budget for that discussion to be had.
All right.
So that we can improve operations, right? So I think that's where you need to communicate with golf, because I don't think they're gonna be able to watch this in 2 days and figure it out. But I think that's the dialogue, as long as am I sending the right message?
And the golf staff was told to include this position in the budget in prior discussions.
So this has been, go ahead, Danny, you look like you're, I'm sorry,
I'm
the
not
glare
sure,
of the
was
sun
that-
coming through.
With me,
By you, in the emails that you sent.
or even in person to you.
I don't recall that, but I do have the emails, which I did state to Kevin that I was a little bit confused as to what it in fact is that we were trying to accomplish here. That's all. You want to put it in, again, it's your golf course, your town, it's my job to manage it, which I do quite successfully. If that's what you want there, so be it.
So it's our town,
Absolutely,
not his town,
that's correct.
but he is the town administrator, and he's had the conversations with committee members, right? It's up to this board to make those decisions, and I would just add this. So there's been a new line item added, right? And I don't even know, it's just, so there's no, if you look over at the line item, there's been no line item number dedicated to it, right? For
No.
account to pull from.
Again-
It's just a position.
It's a position.
So what I would advise is when you have the conversation with golf committee, right, you need to look at your permanent salaries and say, do we already carry enough money for that position, right? Without adding that extra 20-something thousand bucks in.
Which I was going to state, and that was one of the agenda items on this upcoming meeting, was minimum wage has gone up now to $15.75. My guys are not being paid minimum, and then my starters that are above the bag boys need to be jumped up, and then minimum is going to $17 an hour. So all those calculations have to be made within that line item to understand that those numbers will be.
So all the rates are always approved by the Board of Selectmen, so you
Yep.
just said 15.70.
$15.75, I believe is
But then you
minimum wage.
just, then you said something
I believe
after
so.
that, all,
Next year
the
going to
state is
17?
just saying, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna
It's
pay
a- it's a
$30 an
moving
hour to
target.
flip a burger, right? And pretty soon, you're not gonna have any businesses in business anymore, and that's gonna be the demise of society,
Yes.
right? Because the private sector can't keep up with this crap.
And you can't charge $200 for a round of golf.
Correct. So, you know, they don't realize what they're doing. They're just trying to say, we want to be better people as politicians, but they have no damn idea on how to run a business, okay? I'm going to say it right now on
Yeah.
TV because I really don't give a damn. It's a fact. It's the truth. I ran business. I still run business. And the reality of it is you can't sustain these hikes, right? It's the fixed cost of the collapse of people.
Fact.
So figure it out on the new minimum wage thing, right? Hold on a second, Mr. Kelly. I'm speaking. Figure it out. You can't pay somebody under the minimum wage. I think that might be illegal, right?
First of all, the minimum wage that was quoted is not the minimum wage that a municipality is under. It is the state private sector minimum wage that he stated. So if you need to attract people, you might have to pay it. But we are under the federal minimum wage.
That's $7.75.
We've had this discussion
We're
several
making
times.
way more money now. No, I'm just joking. So, look, I understand what we've done. So we've had a past practice.
That's a choice where, do you want the guy that's drooling on himself to be an employee, or do you want the guy that can actually do the job?
So I was
You're not
joking.
even gonna
So
get
hold on.
that.
No, so I was trying to add a little humor to the conversation because I could feel the air getting thick, right? So I'm trying to put a smile on everybody's face with a little bit of humor. So what we've done in past practice, I think, Steve, we've done it with your side. I think we've done it with your side. Is years ago, the board have always said, look, we're going to stay like $1 above minimum wage, right? I don't know if this board still feels that way.
Correct.
To stay in the game, I guess, but sooner or later, we all gotta realize we can't be paying people, bad boys and things of the like in ranges, $30 an hour when we have talented people out in the private sector, plumbers and the like, that are making, $35 an hour. Why do I wanna be scrutinized like that when I can just go hit a golf ball around or chase a golf ball around and throw it in the basket, right? So the reality of it is they're getting it all wrong from the government level. I apologize for their ignorance, but we're stuck kind of dealing with that right now. I'm fine with just saying, hey, you know what, $1 over minimum wage, I'm fine with that. So if the board wants to take,
You did that for the senior work-off program where you brought it up too.
okay, now we're really bankrupting ourselves with, I thought we just brought it up to minimum wage, Mr. Kelly, not $1 above minimum wage.
No, well, yeah, you brought it up to actually 15.
Right. So anyways, for right now, we're talking about golf. Right? And I'll do this right now so you make your so you can actually make accurate calculations. I'll entertain a motion for these, I think we already went way ahead on yours, right?
Yeah, we already did.
So
the,
for the pro shop side of the operations, to stick with $1 above minimum wage, the state's minimum wage.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So there you go. So now you have a hard number to work off of, Dana. And then you can look at what you
Does
currently.
that also include starters and ranges?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Because starters and ranges
So-
typically were $1 above the bag boys.
That's right. So and I understand what you're saying. So if we were, 15, 16, there's $1 disparity between positions, and we just bump this one by $1, then this one should go $1 too. So you keep that same disparity and not equal, right?
Correct.
Right. So we don't want the plumber making the same amount of money as the janitor. That's what you're saying. Okay. So yeah, keep the disparity the same. All right?
Yes, sir.
And then you'll be able to do your calculations better, hopefully by Thursday night when you present. And then you'll know whether that clerical position, or whatever we want to call it, fits into your clubhouse employees' salaries, right? Because I know that in the past years, you've turned back from that line item.
Correct.
So just see where you're at now.
Well, yeah, so with that discussion is the way my labor plan is, I have what I submitted was basically a blueprint of what I try to stay within. But unlike Steve, who has fixed tasks to do at given points, mine is based more on volume, weather, outings. So mine changes, drastically. If I have extra outings that booked, I gotta bring in more kids, more guys that day. It rains, stay home. So I try to stay within the realm of what I submitted, but it is flexible from week to week and month to month. But I don't go over it, and if anything, as you stated, I always come in under, because I don't have the guys just come in and hang out if I don't need them. Go home, man, go do something.
I get it. It's totally understandable too, right? Makes sense. Mr. Kelly?
For other things we have to do through Treasury and accounting, I've asked for a breakdown of the clubhouse personnel. I assume that's all of your people that are under you. a breakdown of the positions, the salary level, how they're funded,
Mhm.
as far as number of hours, average. So we can then figure out our Medicare issue, we can figure out all of those subsidiary issues we have to do in through.
So I requested that information, those reports from Carla.
Now,
and then-
you have to make that, and then we look at it and go through Carla to figure it out,
That
because,
could be pulled off payroll, correct?
no, it has,
Can't
it's the budget going forward you're planning to do, not what we've already had done.
Mm-hmm.
We have to budget for Medicare, stuff like that going forward. So we need your estimates.
Right.
So, let's make sure we try to get the message right? So I think what you're asking him to do is, Steve's done a nice breakdown of his
Right.
side, because his side is really consistent, but you just heard Dana say the hours get changed all the time depending on weather conditions, what do you call this?
Outings.
Outings and things of the like, right? We have a lot of people flooding
We
in,
have to
he's
meet
bringing in
demand.
extra people. So what I think what we're looking for you to do is, you know how many rangers, bad boys, whatever else you got under the realm of employees,
Yep.
all the titles. Look at that, list them all out, right?
Yep.
And then try to apply as best as you can,
Mm-hmm.
maybe on past history,
All
is to
right.
look at how many hours you've plugged in on all those individuals to give us an idea of what payroll will be in the year moving forward, so that treasurer collector can figure out a number, because
Sure.
we need to, so if for some reason, this line item says fringe benefits, maintenance employees, but that's not just fringe benefits, maintenance employees.
That should say maintenance employees, just say fringe benefits.
Correct.
period.
Correct, thank you. So, what we're trying to do is figure out what an accurate number is for that, because we know that that number is not accurate. So we gotta figure out all the Medicare, whatever else, Jamie, what is it, health benefits, if anybody's getting them. So we wanna know all the people on your side, and then list, the hours generally a week that somebody would
Sure.
work, right? So if you have 15.
Per person, not by position.
Right, well,
Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Per person or by position?
it's the same.
positions,
Let's say
person, so.
bag boy number 1, bag boy number 2, bag boy number 3, or
All right.
if you have to just put bag boy, and this is the total you're gonna spend through the year, and here is the
Correct.
breakdown.
All right, so what I submitted was similar to that. By the week for the golf season, the blacked out areas, off seasons, or the times that I don't need those people, but all the hours are listed here, so I'll just reconfigure that.
And how many people,
Yeah.
right? And then you should be doing it really by, instead of positions, by persons, because I don't know if it affects payroll, but
It
if
does.
you have somebody doing 30 hours a week versus, a young kid doing 15 hours a week, the Medicare and all those expenses are gonna be different at a higher rate, right? So
Okay.
it's basically, I think Medicaid is based off salary, right? It's
If you-
1.5%.
And if you give us hours, you've gotta give us a salary rate,
Mhm.
but it's better just to
And
give
you,
us,
and you give the bundle amount.
yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
we just kind of get an idea of how many people we have down there.
Okay.
You have all of that, Dana, you can pull that together pretty quick, right? And then plug in numbers for the salaries for each one of them. Free bag boys, each one's 15 grand, right? I got 45,000 bucks, boom, 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 boom. That's for the season, right? I'm
Yep.
just arbitrarily
Yeah, yeah,
speaking.
I got
So
you
you have
now.
a better idea of what you're doing, because we need to, basically what that is the town's back charging for those benefits. And
Understood.
we need to update that back charge, because we've been doing the same thing for years, and we
Right.
know that that calculation doesn't work out. So
Alright.
we're just trying to get up to date on what we need to be doing to recover those costs.
Very good.
In other words, that 127,536, which is clubhouse employees.
Break it out. Will do.
Because we can't charge you that 1.05 or 1.5%, whatever Medicare is, on that number.
Right.
Because you turn back 27,000, it's an arbitrary number, now we're back charging too much for that line item.
Right.
So we want to have a more realistic number, leaving some juice
Yes.
in that line item in case it's the fan and we need to do something in mid-season to bump, we got a little bit extra allocation, right?
Got it.
So keeping that in mind, that number has no relevance over what we're doing for French benefits. That's the number you're gonna plug out and give us a more accurate number. And then anybody, well, we can tell you anybody that's on healthcare, right, Jamie? We don't care
Yeah.
about that.
I can do that.
Right, we already know from the maintenance side. So obviously, there's been a change in the treasurer collector back charge because the salaries changed, just so you know, when you talk to the committee. That's the difference in that number.
And that's 8290, I believe.
That's the number that's here, that is correct.
What, line number was that? You were on?
512, 13 on that
13.
spreadsheet, or
Yep.
512,
Treasurer collector, yes.
2000. Yep, just so you know what that number is.
512,000, yeah.
Yep,
And
that's
you're looking from what Mr. Kelly submitted to us, 8,160?
8,290.
290.
Okay.
All right, so we covered French benefits, and so that Medicare line item again will change
We'll change, we'll get you a figure.
once you get that information. That's what we're trying to get to, right? And
Energy.
so maintenance, you got energy and then you have maintenance energy.
Yes.
And so I talked to you yesterday about the energy, and I let you know we've been doing 30% in energy because our rates have gone up 30%, right?
Mhm.
And then I also talked about different kind of things that are pulled from your energy line, and it might not
Right.
all be electricity. So
Ours is like, the majority of it is electricity. I think we have water in there, which is a minuscule
it would
percentage
be,
of it.
right. It's the most affordable utility in the town. Well, pretty much any town, right? Compared to all our other
So
utility
we were
bills.
looking to do 30% above that? Is that correct?
Because our rates, the town's rates, and Jamie, they're part of the town's rates, right?
Yes.
So the town's rates have gone up 30%, so we've done that right across the board.
And that would be 28.6 for 22,000 and 12,376.
So then,
Why do you break it up
maintenance,
separately?
energy,
Well, the thing I want to mention about energy, a couple of things. First of all, one aspect of that energy that you just mentioned is somewhat misleading because the electrical cost to run the pump station comes out of that line item.
Right.
The electrical cost to run the pump station should come out of our energy line item. It'd be more reflective of where it's coming from. I've mentioned that before, it just seems to, get passed over. They're separate because his water bill, he gets a separate water bill, I get a separate water bill. I'm heating the maintenance facility throughout the winter.
I do minimally.
He does minimal heating up at the pro shop. They're two different
sure.
setups. I believe your heating is electric.
It is.
Ours heating is by propane.
Right.
And then along with, those energy costs, for instance, if we have, I believe your propane for your
Mine goes
gas
out of-
grills?
It goes out of rentals.
Oh, it goes out of rentals, okay. But our energy, like I said, includes the water, it includes the electricity, it includes
Propane.
propane for heating.
Yeah, so I talked to Dana yesterday about that, Steve, right? And I said, and I had that conversation with Mr. Kelly when he was doing that across the board, and I said, well, you can't do that because there's multiple things in the composition of an energy line item. Unfortunately, that's the way it's set up, right? Certain places like our library is 100% electric, kind of what's going on with you, Dana, at the pro shop, right, the clubhouse. And you said you pull, which doesn't make any sense, why propane's being pulled out of rentals.
Well, it's for the grill. It's a
All
it's
right,
a rental
whatever,
service.
however you guys do it, and it doesn't matter, skin of the cat.
I break them all down. Each one of these, when I initially proposed the budget to the golf committee way back when, I was told, this is 20-some years ago, I was told it was a little too busy. But each of my categories is broken out as the subcategories within which contribute to that total amount.
Sure.
So we have to rent propane tanks $290 a year for the two big tanks out back. It was a rental. So that's included in the energy bill as well.
Okay, that's fine. So you figure out, I think
So you wanna go-
you've added some to your energy.
I added
so
some. You want to go back to the previous year figure, use the 30%, what was it? What was your increase?
30%.
30%, and then submit that as a different figure?
If you know what your energy line items, Steve, which you have a pretty good grasp on that stuff, it sounds like, right? So you know what the difference is within that 10 grand, we're gonna say, you know
Yeah,
what-
the only variable in there is how cold it gets in the winter, because to be quite honest with the shop is not insulated well. We have a warm side and a cold side.
Right.
And we heat the warm side, it goes up through the rafters over to the cold
So
side.
that's propane and a little bit
Yeah.
more electricity to run the motors that are forcing the fans, right?
Yeah.
So neither here or there, it's a Mickey Mouse number.
Yeah.
Break it out, figure it out, and then submit it to your committee, right? So that, we understand that, and we'll figure out why your pumps for sprinklers and all that are tied into the clubhouse. So
That's a big energy, that, obviously during the course of the year, that's a significant electric expense.
It looks like it'll be 12,376.
do you have your own meter on the maintenance building, and do you have your own meter on your building? How do you factor? Is
As
it
far
one
as I
meter?
know, there's separate meters. The guy drives through the parking lot with the little flashing lights. He drives by the building. They used to come in and actually read the meter. And they also
Sure.
they would call me to get onto the golf course to read the pump station meter, but now they do it remotely, I guess.
Right, yep.
So they do have
Through a
separate
reader.
meters for those too.
That's how we do it in the town, it just gets read, so.
It's separate bills.
I understand that, but what he just said is a little bit of alarming, and he's been working there for 20-something years, and he's talked about it for 20-something years. I'm pretty sure I just heard what I heard out of Mr. Tibbles' mouth, and for some reason, the sprinkler pumps that's on his side of maintenance is still tied into, but it's gotta be the way they wired the pumps into his meter.
I don't know how they, let me put it this way, when they put that there and they put a meter on it, I don't know who they assigned the meter to, but it didn't get assigned to us because I don't see the bill.
Right.
You get
That's
three
what I'm
separate
saying.
bills. You get a clubhouse electric bill, you get a you get a maintenance facility electric bill, and you get a third bill, which they call water pump. 3 different bills from the electric company.
So wait a minute, you just said they get an electric bill.
He gets an electric
You get an
bill.
electric bill,
I
and
get
then you
an
get a
electric
third
bill.
bill that says water
The
pump?
third bill is the water pump.
So
yes.
why wouldn't that water pump bill, which is the big juicer, right, for run those pumps, why wouldn't it just be attached to your maintenance energy line instead of his?
I don't know, I've asked the same question and it's just been left where it
The only
was.
way you can get a third bill is if there's a third meter.
Yeah, there's 3 meters.
So that's
All
what I'm
I'm
saying,
doing
so
is-
Steve, that's the definition of insanity, right? Why wouldn't we just take that and figure out what the energy really is in the clubhouse, and then take the difference for the pumps, and
Put it in his budget.
and take
Yeah.
$5,000 off of Dana's energy bill and stick $5,000 in yours?
I think the reason they did that is because when all's said and
What?
done, this is what the budget looks like. It has both operations and maintenance in one particular
This is just
category,
a
one
journal
particular,
entry we can
here it
do
is,
in an
enterprise
accounting.
fund.
Yeah.
But that's fine, but we should still know what maintenance is doing.
Yeah, oh,
You
yeah,
you're split into two different sides of the house, right?
Right.
yeah.
So there's the maintenance side of the house, and then there's the golf side of the house, right? So why wouldn't we know exactly what the expenses are on each side of the house? And right now, we don't, because the only ones that do
We
is
have a
you.
pretty good
Well, you do,
idea.
the only thing.
But if you look at a budget,
No,
you
no,
don't.
no, correct.
I can tell you where I am right now.
All right, it's fine. I'm just trying to, if we're making changes and we're trying to recreate the wheel, let's look at that as well.
We can code it.
It's just a clerical thing in my eyes. You just attach the meter to a different account.
You gotta swap the dollar amounts inside the budget, is all I'm saying, and then it goes to that friggin' line item, you don't have to do anything, you set up any account, the account's already set up. It's just swapping numbers in the budget, it's all we need to do. We don't need to bring in NASA for this.
No.
So,
The first thing we can do.
rentals, 527,000.
Yep, that's everything that we use for services, whether it be New Bedford Welding, propane, Mr. Cesspool,
Oh,
anything services, towel vendors that we use.
That was a huge jump.
Yeah, rent and Golf Now. The Golf Now subscription fee went from 1,000 annually to 12,000, so we had to
Oh.
bump that $12,000 in order to have the software that we use.
I remember that comment. So let's talk about that real quick, right? So there's new software that we put in with all
Well,
the...
it's the same company. They said it was gonna be an update. What it ended up being was an entire overhaul of the entire system. So now we have same vendor with a brand new software system, new reporting, new everything. So that's what we did all winter and into the spring, was get familiar with this software, how it operates, set up the entire golf course operation and try to mirror the way that it was set up, so that when reports come out, the treasurer has the proper reports, accounting has the proper reports, and everything looks apples to apples the same way that it was. So I think we're at a point where we successfully did that. So that was a plus. But it is a totally different software package system. It operates a hair bit slower, maybe over time as technology advances, because this is a cloud-based system as opposed to being on your own server in your pro shop. And supposedly the sales pitch to us was Windows isn't supporting the old software anymore. So you guys have to either upgrade or take the risk that that's going to run without needing support, because we're not supporting it anymore. So we were hooked one way or the other. We had to do something.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we'll look at that. If it's software, it maybe should be coded differently.
I'll leave
Or
that
part of it.
I'll leave that up to the IT people.
Well, it's the county that does it. Codes software expenditures.
Oh, I thought we were talking about speeds. But whatever. So the other issue I've seen in the budget is trash removal. We used to do it, we don't do it.
Yeah, we had ABC, and then the town, I guess, got rid of that contract, right? Who's the town use now?
Well, what happened?
It used to be
several years
Howland,
ago-
and now
Howland,
it's,
that's who
and
it
now,
was. It
and
was
now
Howland.
it's,
Sorry,
back
wasn't-
then when it changed, it was
Waste management,
Howland,
I think.
and now it's waste
It's
management.
waste management. What happened, we normally, I spoke to Alan Catino about this years ago. Normally, because I had ABC at the beginning, and then he said, well, the town contract is coming up for renewal. So we got added into the town contract. And we went through with the town contract until a certain point, and all of a sudden, the town contract was up for renewal again with Howland, and we didn't get included.
Right.
That's where the line item came in for trash removal. And then subsequent to that, the town contract, I guess it comes up every 3 years, 2-3 years? I'm not sure how. Five. Well, when the town contract came up again, it got added back in. So as far as I know, that's where it stands right now. That's why there wasn't anything budgeted for trash.
So what do we have down there? We have dumpsters or we have barrels?
You have dumpsters, you have an 8-yard and a 12-yard.
Yeah, I got the big one, and he's got the small one. In the peak season, I definitely need two a week, preferably Friday, Monday, so I can get all the action that takes place in and out of there, and because it gets pretty ripe
Okay.
real quick.
I'll have a conversation with Dan on that, okay? And we'll figure that out. No big deal. Credit card fees, I think that needs to be discussed and looked at. I don't know if we need to do that on camera, but I think it's something that we need to have a discussion behind the scenes on. Mr. Kelly, you don't have anything to say about that on camera, do you?
No, I think the accountant and the treasurer collector and town council have to all be in the room on it.
Okay, so you can handle that with everybody you need to. And so beverages, alcohol, you broke out, it's just a deduction from the other line item, right?
Correct, yeah.
And then we
Food
carry-
and beverage used to be all inclusive, and then it was decided to be broken out moving into the next fiscal year, so any alcoholic beverages will be put on its own separate line item.
Yep, I can see that reduction from the other line item. That was carried in food supplies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody understands. Insurance.
That has to be increased.
So, Mr. Kelly, I think you handle insurance. I think we need to figure out.
32,500 is what we need to put in there.
What is it? What number?
32,500.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know where the 15 came from. Because if you look at it historically, it's 32,180.
Correct.
33,9, 35, and then for some reason 15. I don't know.
I try to focus on the ones that jump out to me, right? Mickey Mouse stuff is
Mhm.
whatever. I'd leave that up to the committee and you folks to deal with. Capital projects.
That is typically, if there is any surplus, we routinely will take on projects such as cot paths, bunkers, anything that we can afford to, where Steve will prioritize and based on dollar amounts and timing of when the projects can take place. We review those with the golf committee, and Steve constantly has a list, a hot list that we'll go to. If there's any money in that line item, something we can pick off and use our funds to improve the product for the customer. So that's.
Steve, you comfortable?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that, given that we have the opportunity to look at, town articles and be specific for larger projects. Because to be quite honest with you, 3780, if you have to go outside and has to go to bid, isn't going to get you a lot when you consider
Get you a
prevailing
small
wage.
lawnmower.
So well,
Very small.
depends on what kind of lawnmower you're buying.
I know, we bought some. That's why I'm saying, it'll get you a small one.
Smart.
I can't
But
believe how
yes,
much a mower costs,
I
right?
am comfortable with that number at this point, because again, we have some projects that once we get our younger, more labor-intensive staff on board, that we can do in-house and spend some of that on and save some money.
That's fine. Mr. Kelly?
I've been CC'd on some emails that have gone back and forth between Dana and I think maybe Steve and the committee on the maintenance of golf carts.
Okay.
Are these numbers good for that?
We have an invoice for $77,500 for the club car maintenance that Ed was asking me if I could put it in the, he said, where should I put this? And I was like, you can put it in rentals or you can put it in capital. He said it's not capital. And I don't have any money left in the rentals. So
He should know, because this was discussed. This is the maintenance contract for the new and existing golf carts that was discussed at a couple meetings ago. I don't know why there's a significant question about it, because they decided that when they bought the new golf carts to go with a maintenance contract. Well, that was the maintenance contract that Club Car came up with, and I believe it was presented.
right.
As far as I know, that should
The
go.
confusion was where
Is
was
it
it
in
gonna
there?
go? Was it gonna go on my budget or his budget? I assumed it was on his, and he just assumed it was probably on mine, so it wasn't included in this.
We got so many maintenance line items inside this
So where
budget,
should it
man.
be?
Like,
Well,
pick one.
Huh?
Pick one. You probably got 12 different maintenance.
Well, let me put it, well, no, I mean, they're all maintenance, because the only reason it says maintenance is because that differentiates it from
right.
operations.
Operations,
I don't know why
They break
You know-
up the budget into two budgets.
let me put it this way, coming to municipality, their terminology does not come close to matching what is routinely accepted in the golf business as
But
budgetary line items.
so let me just jump on that for a minute, Steve.
Yeah.
And you know more about your individual line items, right? And how what the compositions of them all are, let's put it that way. 527-100, number 27 on this, I don't know if you're looking at mine,
Yeah.
but 527-100, right? It says maintenance rental leases. So if we're talking about golf carts, that's a rental, a lease, sorry.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't it be built into that one line item?
Well, if you want it to be built, because as long as they're willing to put the money into that line item, then sure. But the 27,000 that's in there covers software rental for the irrigation system, dry jet aeration on the greens, deep tine aeration on greens, fairway aeration.
So
all that
again,
money's accounted for.
So we get the picture. And I said, you know the composition of your line.
Yeah,
item.
so it's
So
not
let's
a-
just do this. I mean, if they're trying to keep things, you said two different budgets, we only see one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys must discuss things on each side within your committee meeting so that this pertains to Steve, this pertains to Dana's side of the house.
Sure.
Let's have the discussion. Then I would just say, why don't we just request a line item from the town accountant, plug up.
Or it can be put in here, but.
No,
How
hold
much
on.
does it need?
Hold on, hey,
7,500.
chief, so just to keep things clean for them, again, different sides of the house, we create a line item, give Dana a line item for whatever it is that you just talked about, maintenance, leases, or whatever the hell it is, and pop it in there and tell them to insert $6,000 in the damn thing.
Let me,
But
but
is
this-
that the line that's above it? Is what I'm asking.
Rentals?
Is that where the golf carts have come out of?
That's a new expense to the operation.
But
But if you want to put it there, you can put it there.
in the past, you had a maintenance agreement with Club Car. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000. Back when Rich Gallipo was still our mechanic several years ago, they came to us and say, well, can you guys take care of the carts? And I said, as long as it doesn't interfere with the maintenance of the turf equipment, because turf equipment takes priority in that circumstance.
There's a simple solution to this, looking at your budget, okay? We don't need to create a new wheel out of this. Down below on number 580080, it says golf cart leases, just put /maintenance
Okay.
Yeah,
and add some money to that line item and off she hops. We're all done. Okay? Simple
Got it.
solution. That's from the advice. Is there a motion?
well,
to
you should, I
have?
mean, it's a golf cart expense, so it should be kept where golf cart expenses go.
That's why I put it there, Steve. It's just common sense looking at the damn budget,
You
right?
should've said
We're
that
trying to
5 minutes
recreate a
ago.
wheel. We're recreating a wheel and going through all this crap. We know golf carts are on Dana's side of the house. Let's just put it there, /maintenance.
Roger that.
And add some money to it, whatever that amount is through the committee. And say that's a is that a recommendation from the board?
Yes.
Sure.
There you go.
are there any other items like that that haven't been taken care of?
No, sir.
Not that I know.
Okay, you've got a line, indirect costs with nothing in it.
Correct.
That line sits there because indirect costs have been a question for identity for several years. Indirect costs, I didn't hear the word indirect cost under Mr. Catino. When Mr. Noble came, there was discussion about indirect cost, and somebody threw some outrageous figure of approximately $120,000 into indirect costs, and I said, time out. I mean, how can we absorb $120,000 in indirect costs? Can someone please explain to me what an indirect cost is? To this date, no one has explained to me what an indirect cost is, where it generates from, and how the amount is calculated. And there's never been anything put in there.
So that
So
number.
somebody can help.
So that number back then when Mr. Noble threw it out, right? It's all about money, right? Where's the next pool of that coming from? So anyways, that's where that number came from. It was a lot higher than your 120. I probably have that spreadsheet somewhere at home, okay?
It was.
The reality of, I know it was, I know what I know. And the reality of it is what an indirect cost would be considered, at least the major ones that I can think off the top of my head is pensions, right? And OPEB,
Yep.
right?
That's
Two big ones, right? OPEB is other post-employment benefits. Right now, the town of Acushnet's OPEB liability, depending on what actuator you talk to, right? Actuary people, what are those people called, actuaries?
Actuaries.
Right, those folks there, that, you know, last year they were 15 million, this year they're gonna be at 25 million, and then next year they'll be at 15 million, and again, don't understand all the way they work out, but we've had multiple numbers, and the last time we had an update, it was somewhere around $18 million, just for OPEB. What other post-employment benefits are is benefits for people that retire out, healthcare benefits, Medicare.
Now, would those benefits apply to, those benefits would only apply to people who are full-time employees, correct? I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
I
the
think
question.
it's anyone that's,
Over 20 hours,
Over 20 hours,
and not
20 hours per week,
seasonal.
and not seasonal. Okay,
And that,
so there's a way for us to figure that out.
and then
it's
we
real
have,
easy.
and then the definition of seasonal that you guys have is not the definition of seasonal that the state has, but primarily some of your guys might be eligible, but a lot of Dana's guys aren't.
So we need to figure out how that's done so we can come up with a legitimate indirect cost, and then,
We kind of been doing a shadow program of it, just trying to figure out what it is, right? And then you have pensions, which is a big nut.
now pensions, that includes full-time people, what's that other thing that they make?
So the
Does
basic, let me,
Does that include Bencor?
No.
now,
No, okay.
let's make it real simple, right? So we can get through the rest of this meeting, because I got a time frame I need to hit, and I got executive sessions. The reality of it is you just take a $100,000 employee, right? One, we're only gonna talk one employee right now, and you guys can figure out the math later on. One employee at $100,000. If you get 30 years in, you get 80% of your pay, that's $80,000. And even though whatever your contribution rate is over those 30 years, the rule of thumb is in Bristol County Savings retirement system is you'll expend your contribution in anywhere between 5 and 7 years, and then the rest of it's on the taxpayer's back for the rest of your life. For as long as you live, you get your 80% of the pay, which is $80,000 in retirement, okay? If your salary's 100 grand. So you can do the simple math and figure that out and figure out what we need to start looking at as far as a back charge, just on what we have. You two gentlemen have been there both over 20 years, right? So if you go to the 20-year threshold, it's roughly 50% of wherever your salaries are right now. You can benchmark
That comes
that.
out of that little table that they provide you with the numbers, yeah.
So that'll figure out where you need to be, and then you figure out what we haven't been collecting in an indirect cost. So let's just talk pensions for now, not OPEB. And then you'll look at what your contribution rate has been. And again, 5 to 7 years is the rule of thumb that you use for when you'll expend actually your contribution, and then you're banging on the taxpayer's dime for the rest of your life, right? That's the way it works, the pension system, unfortunately. It's not sustainable, forget about it. But that's how we would figure out that number, right? So you could look at both of your salaries, figure it out from where we are now, just assuming that you're both at 20 years. I know you both have a few more years in that, 50% of your numbers, you'll figure it out, it's over $85,000. I'll do some math for you right now, right? So we would need, at minimum, just to cover 2 employees, starting now, $85,000. And we gotta hurry up and go, because that money's gonna go just like that.
Our increase per year of what we're sending to Bristol County is over $100,000 a year.
Well-
Just each year, they're increasing.
Well, let me ask you this, I don't know if I'm, should mention these types of things on TV, but if you'll notice down there somewhere, you see $100,000 as a, emergency or reserve.
Yep, that's all that is.
Well, it's in the budget right now.
It is.
Could that be used in that fashion? And then if there was an emergency, well, then you have to go to town meeting. to get
Correct,
one.
that's the
Yeah.
whole reason why
That's the
we put
problem.
that reserve, we did it with
Yeah.
all our enterprise funds, right? And we
Yeah.
actually this board just initiated this year in the
Cable.
cable account, all right, the reserve account that we have for cable, I think we did 50 Gs, and that one has an emergency reserve. That's what that is, in case all your other line items get depleted, and you have a few more months left and something, detrimental would happen. We don't need to go to a town meeting to say we need $60,000. The Board of Selectmen can make that approval. So, no, it's not a good idea to remove that reserve. I mean,
That's my question.
however, with that said, we have, if I don't have all my articles with me when I gave that rundown, is you've got a bunch of money in article money that's still lingering around, the golf cart paths and things of the like. It's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. I think we might be having that conversation, we might end up adding it. I would right now just recommend to you folks to go back to committee Thursday night and discuss everything that's been discussed here, plugging in some new numbers, do some new calculations based on what Mr. Kelly's given you and Medicare and fringe benefits and all of that stuff and get rid of maintenance off the fringe benefits because it's for everybody, right? And come up with a new number and have that discussion around somebody being trained at the desk, Dana, and
Sure.
you know, they're gonna probably wanna have that conversation with you and figure out that. I mean, there's some time for you to be spending training somebody. Nobody's just gonna walk in there and go, I know how to do this, right? And they need to understand that, but figure it out and then come back with, give Mr. Kelly a new budget.
Do we want to stay at mid 9,500 for Medicare, or do we want to adjust that? Right now,
We're waiting for Dana's people. Dana's gonna give us a payroll as best as he can, and we're gonna guesstimate based off of his payroll, because that's,
Right now, I've got hundreds of dollars more than that in my estimate. And when you get that in, I'll refine it.
Got it.
Also, just for, to discuss with the committee, you have nothing here on internet costs. It's not a lot, but you should,
well, that's why I left, I mean, that question came up from the finance folks, and then they mentioned, at least in my particular line item, why I left 2,500 in the telephone bill now that we had fiber.
yeah.
And they said, well, fiber's not costing you X amount, but I said it was costing me something. So I believe,
So
I don't
we
know what
can
internet costs
transition
are,
that.
but we could cover it in there,
We can transition that.
yeah.
All right.
Same thing on my line item.
Because it's fiber, so we should we call it telephone and internet? Yeah, so we'll change the,
you just use that slash
yeah,
internet. Instead of recreating the wheel. You know where your budgets are, Steve. You mean, you've got a pretty good breakdown. I've seen some of your reports. You and Dana can look at your telephone bill from the prior year and say, okay, this is what I budgeted. It was $1,000 and my budget is 1,500, there's 500 for internet. Have a nice day. We don't need to increase it,
yeah.
right? So I think that's all he's looking to do on that. And then you guys gotta get back to us with a budget by Friday. Wrap it up. You meeting Thursday night,
Yep.
let the committee know that we're gonna do, and we just need new numbers. You can give, Mr. Kelly, they can give us, when they go through these line items, they can give us new numbers and we'll plug the numbers and submit it, give them a new copy of their budget, instead of they're trying to do our budgets, their budget.
Yeah, well, they've got, I'll send them copies of this budget. They can add a column, put it in as,
I mean, I've got the original budget request form that had the 3 empty columns, and then I have a budget that came back to me right here with the 2025 numbers added by the town.
and we can send
Yeah.
what we were working off to you.
Yeah.
And it'll come right back and it'll be part of the template.
That's all I'm saying is we'll change,
Hopefully.
put the
raise
slash, on the golf carts leases slash maintenance, right?
Yeah.
And then you put in the extra $5 or $6 grand, whatever that contract is, $7 grand, whatever it is, Dana. And then any other ones, the telephone slash internet, right? Make sure you have enough money in the allocation for that and change the numbers around and do whatever you need and give us back the new numbers and we'll plug it into the budget and we'll reissue it back to you to make sure everything looks copacetic before we vote it.
Yep.
Very good.
But I think as long as you get approvals through committee, right?
All right.
And
It's pretty much what the Board of Selectmen are looking to do, so they just kind of need to take it under advisement and just do it, right? There's no real option now.
Yeah.
We need
My
certain,
apologies for any confusion, Mr. Kelly.
we want
Just
everything
wasn't,
updated.
Grasping where we were going.
Gentlemen,
no apologies necessary.
thank you for your time, Mr. Tibbles, Mr. Dana,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
if you
Kelly.
could tell the committee that the board voted the change on the town meeting to June 17.
June 17th.
And if the committee could be there to defend their budget, it would be nice.
All right,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I just have one, just FYI, to the board, but it's not, I'm hesitant to share this publicly because we'd have to do some work on our end. But as you know, there's been some discussions about with the town of Fairhaven doing some type of reciprocity with the golf course and their town beach. Last night, the Fairhaven Board of Public Works approved 100 passes for Acushnet residents to purchase at the Fairhaven rate, whatever that is, right? So in exchange, we'll come up with something
Sure.
that would be a similar value to their residents. You know, off the top of my head, I'm thinking like something, the same season, right? Like May to September, whatever those things are for. You know, Fairhaven rate for walkers or something like that. I don't know. We'll come up with something that's appropriate.
Sure.
But it's, you know, I just want to give you that heads up. And I did talk to Chairman Flynn about it. and
We can
we'll get
fit
back
that
to
in,
us.
no problem.
Once we figure it out, we'll pass that on to committee, but we'll see what kind of
Yeah,
value.
yeah.
We're just balancing the value. I think what
Your
Mr.
value, let me know, and then we can
Yeah.
bounce around some ideas to which.
Mr. Wona's really working on
The
that, so it's
season
just.
pass that you have, like the season passes, like all the different.
We have a bunch.
Right, are there Acushnet rates
No,
for those? So that's
the
just.
best rate for Acushnet residents is to play
Yeah.
as a
right.
resident
Yeah,
and should not buy those passes.
got it.
But we could design it the same way, right? They give us 100, we'll give them
Yeah,
100.
we'll figure something
whatever.
out, whatever the rate value is, you know, but.
We don't wanna we don't wanna lose money.
No,
No, I don't think we'll be in that situation.
Well, yeah,
You know,
Right, so we'll figure it out.
right, and,
very
you know,
good.
The purpose of that is we know there's a number of residents who never golf
Right.
and feel equally as passionate about their recreational opportunities, and we wanted to provide that. So for those who feel like the golf course isn't doing anything for them, this is a case where it actually is, so.
Well, they could come out and walk, and we have runners in the morning, we have walkers in the morning.
I think that's awesome.
Wildlife observers in the morning.
People like to swim, and people like to hang on the beach.
Oh, you
know.
can swim in the, well,
All right, good catch.
That's Selectman Wona's thing. Let him run with that, right? Oh, Jesus Christ. Sleep.
Someone's gonna put a lawn chair up.
I
on the
can't
same
make it up.
trap.
Mr. Kelly, we don't have anything on the fiscal town meeting warrant that we need to discuss until
No.
we get budgets done, right? And we'll go through
Correct.
that and all that happy horse stuff, right? All right, Selectmen's announcements, gentlemen, do you have anything?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Warner,
No, that
Mr.
was
Dingley,
it.
nothing other Selectmen's announcements? Sure. I just want to say happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. This Sunday is Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And Election Day is May 18th, and elections will be held at the Acushnet Elementary School, 800 Middle Road. And elections open on Saturday, 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. And if you think I've been doing a good job, thank you, and if you don't, no hard feelings. Is there a motion to go into executive session under General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, ASME grievance, Wanda Hamer. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigated position of the public body and the chair so declares, the board will not return to public session at the conclusion of the executive session.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote, Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Wona?
Yes.
And I am a yes. And there's an executive session on the General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, United Steelworkers Union. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and the board will not return to public session at the conclusion of the executive session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote, Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Wona?
Yes.
And I am a yes. We are now in executive session. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 14th at 4 p.m.